Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you might be in the world. Thank you for joining us for Color Conversations, episode number 1. We're going to be talking about a iPad iPhone app called Blendoku. I'll probably pronounce it wrong 3 or 4 times throughout the webinar, right, Shelby?
It's also not just an Apple app. You can get it on Google Android, but it is
Okay.
just a mobile app. You can't play it on a desktop.
Oh, yeah, we found that out trying to get ready for this webinar today. All right, so let's just move right along. Today's panelists or conversationalists, which we prefer to call ourselves, since this is really going to be a conversation. It's not going to be like some of the other webinars you may have attended in the last year or so that I've put on, and Shelby's participated in some of those as well. We've got some slides here. We've got a slide deck. It's really just to facilitate the conversation. I suspect you'll get to experience my ADD in all its glory as I go off on tangents. Shelby will try and reel me back in. So I'm on the left here. I co-founded Colormetrics almost 20 years ago and act as our CEO and Chief Color Officer. And Shelby, I actually like this picture of her because she had 17 years in journalism and newspapers before she joined Colormetrics. But I'll let her tell you more about herself.
Thanks, Jim. Shelbys Experience, and yes, I joined Colormetrics a little over 4 years ago now, surprisingly. I think February 1 will be 4 years, right?
Correct.
I have an anniversary coming up. What are you getting me, by the way?
I guess I better figure that out quickly. What is that? That's Sunday. Uh-oh.
Just realized that. Anyway, yes, I had 17 years, 7 different newspapers around the country. Most recently here in Milwaukee, where we are. I worked for the Journal Sentinel, and I also worked for the Milwaukee Business Journal for 6 years. I was basically a production director, I'll call myself, doing press checks, and I was in charge of the printing for all the advertising, so brand colors and, the newspaper in general and all of the special sections. That's what I specialized in besides doing design work, graphic design work. So
Okay,
kind of
great.
both ends of the spectrum there.
Okay, great. Enough about us. Let's jump right into what Color Conversations is going to be. So we started doing webinars last year, or actually I guess almost 2 or 3 years ago, and we had this goal of doing one a month last year, and we didn't quite achieve it, but it's because part of color and color education, it doesn't change a lot, but there is a lot going on in the color world. So this year we decided to just focus on whatever interests us this month or whatever might be going on in the industry. And I don't even know what all 12 topics are going to be, but Shelby does a lot of research for finding things to blog about, finding things to share socially on Twitter and Facebook. And she came across this app, and she was very excited about it and asked me to play it. And I'll get into when I finally got a chance to play it. And once I played it, I thought, wow, this is great. I mean, this really does have a lot to do with color and fits in with a lot of the color education we've done over the last year. So that's the kind of topics we're going to look for. And each month we will write a blog post or an article that we'll post to our blog. So hopefully most of you have read that. And in this case, hopefully you've downloaded the app and tried it out. If you haven't, hopefully you will after the webinar. And then we'll do this webinar. And I don't know if some of these could be 20 minutes. Some of these could be an hour. We're going to limit it to an hour, but it's just going to be a conversation, and wherever it goes, it goes. Anything you want to add to that, Shelby?
No, I think you got it.
Okay, great. I'll let you talk about this piece.
So, as Jim mentioned, if you can type in your question or comments in your control panel there and go to webinar. We do have some poll questions, just some fun things that we're going to pop up, and you'll see a window pop up, and you can just answer. We'll give you a few seconds, well, a little bit longer than a few seconds, and then we'll share the results. And also, I am monitoring our Twitter account today at Colormetrics, and we're using the hashtag for all of these conversations, Color Convo.
And actually, just as an aside, today we won't have any poll questions because of the technical problems we ran into here getting started. So, but that's fine. I mean, and sometimes we might not have poll questions, so that's all right as well. Along the same lines as how to join the conversation, if you read one of our posts early in the month, like if you read whatever we're going to publish in February, and I'm not going to give it away yet, We're going to try and get them out around the 1st. It might be the 5th. It might be the 10th. We're all busy. Once you read the post, if it's something you find very, very interesting and you think you could add to the conversation, please, by all means, send us an email, reach out to us on Twitter, and if it works out, we'll add you as a panelist, and you can be part of the conversation.
Or if you have ideas for topics, because I think right now we're only 6 months out for ideas, so we have plenty of openings.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, Shelby. So. All right. So this slide, for those of you who haven't had a chance to maybe download and try the game, this shows you a little bit about what Blendoku. Did I say it right?
Blendoku. It's like Sudoku, the number game. Have you ever played that?
I'll still get it wrong. How long did it take to get your last name? How long did it take to get your last name right? Come on.
Forever.
Right. So I'll get it eventually. All right. So let's get the conversation started. So Shelby, how did you find Blendoku, and why did you choose it as our lead-off topic for Color Conversations?
I found it by accident in the iTunes store. I often will, if I'm just having a day where I need a break, a mental break, I'll go through and Google things or try to come up with ideas for blogs. And I knew that this was coming up, our Color Conversations. So when we started talking about it, I started just Googling, and I found this, and it got great ratings, and I downloaded it and played it for a couple days before I told you about it. And then I thought it'd be fun to do a blog post about it and center the webinar around it, but I wanted to do an experiment. I wanted to try it on, because it's only mobile, I wanted to try it on different applications, be it a phone or an iPad mini or a regular size iPad. I wanted to try, I had 4 people try the game, you and me, and you're male, I'm female, you're sadly more older than me, sorry, but you are, and so the conditions were different, and I had another female who's younger, and I had another male younger, and had them try it. They played at different times of the day in different environments, different conditions physically, and so it was just interesting to see how people played the game and what kind of problems they did or didn't have.
Okay, great. Well, I can tell you some things that concerned me about the game right away as I got into it are these 3 images here. And anyone who's been part of our webinars, and if you haven't, we have them all archived on the Colormetrics site.
Hey, Jim, before you get into this, do you maybe want to show the quick video on how the game is played? Because if you don't know that, I don't know that this is going to make sense.
Oh, sure. That's a good idea. We'll see if that works.
Because I'm not sure that everybody who's listening has actually played the game.
So are you seeing the video, Shelby? You're going to have to help me a little bit here, because
Yeah, and we had to kind of do this last minute because we were trying to figure out a way to play it live. And so I had to record this from my phone on my iPad, so I apologize for my ponytailed reflection there, but I also would have painted my nails had I knew I was going to have to do this last minute.
All right. It's sufficient for the purposes of this webinar. So I'm going to click play, Shelby, and I'm going to let you talk them through what's going on, because even though I played the game, you played it far more than me.
All right. Well, I hope the video looks okay. Again, sorry, I'm not. So this is, the beginning of it. I hit play, and you can do simple, medium, hard, or master. I just picked simple. Everybody who did the experiment played the simple levels. This is level 1. You are just putting the colors in order from light to dark on this one. They do get more complicated. This is just sets of gray. Later on, they are in crosses and pyramid styles. They get much more difficult. But I think you kind of get the gist here of what it is. I'm sorry, it's a little shaky. I was holding the phone while playing the game, and but hopefully that gives you an idea of how it works.
Absolutely. So, all right, great. I'll play it one more time.
Sorry to interrupt, Jim, but I thought that would help.
Yeah, I'm going to play it one more time just for people who, I know sometimes video can be unreliable over webinars, so I'll just play it a second time in case people didn't get a good view of it. And I found it very easy to play. I'm not as much of a gamer as Shelby can be. I know when we travel, she's almost always got some kind of a visual or word or thinking game on her iPad to keep her busy while we're in transit. And even as someone who doesn't play a lot of games on mobile devices, I found it really easy to figure that piece of it out. And it did become just slightly addictive. I ended up playing it for most of my flights, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so you're right, Shelby. This was good to show the video first. So let me get that video out of here. Get the presentation running again. So one of the concerns I had as I played the game is that if you were going to use it as a visual assessment of any time, you had to be concerned about some very real issues. And the first one is illumination, which we're showing on the left side here by people looking at print samples under the correct illumination. But honestly, even if you're looking at a color calibrated monitor, which I know there are ways, but for all practical purposes, most people don't calibrate their iPhones or their iPads or their other mobile devices like we're showing this woman doing in the lower right hand photo. So you have an uncalibrated device that you're looking at in a well, for most people, you're using it in a unknown light source, or at least not a controlled light source like a light booth. And then, of course, the biggest factor, which we're going to talk quite a bit about, is you have human eyes involved, and human eyes have frailty issues and things like that. Those all came to mind to me as I was playing this game on an airplane with the sun shining on the screen. So, do you want to add anything to that, Shelby, or ask me any questions about that?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
I can't think of any. Sorry.
Oh,
Right.
she's taking notes. I'm in trouble. All right. So the other thing that occurred to me is, is this really a game, or is it a test, or what is it? And I came to the conclusion after comparing it to things like this test and the one I'm going to show in a couple slides that in fact it's a tool. And I'll talk more about that in a couple slides. But so I found this Ishihara 38 plate color blindness test, which many of you in the print industry may have seen. I know when I got my first job in the print industry, I had to flip through those 38 plates and prove that I wasn't colorblind, which was a good thing because I was a quality control manager or something like that. I don't even remember the title. So
You
if
were
you're
saying earlier, Jim, that you went to even going to the eye doctor, they give you this test. I go to the eye doctor, and no one's ever given me a color blindness test.
well, maybe it was when I was younger. Maybe they don't do it anymore. And I am older, of course, as you had to point out.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the screen right now and you're not picking up a number in that circular field, um, then you actually may want to go and run through this test. And I will send out an email with a link to both this test and another device that I've got, because the links are not very friendly. So I think there's a way I can edit the follow-up email that comes out um, about 24 hours from now, and I'll make sure that the links for these two tests are in there. So this is just one of the 38 plates. I did go through it. I still am not colorblind, which was good. If you're a man, you're more likely to be colorblind by quite a high percentage. About 8%, 9% of men are blind, and almost no women are colorblind. I actually saw, I guess it's 1 in 255, so it's more than I've stated in the past, but it's a very unlikely thing. And this test really only detects what they call red-green color blindness, which means you don't see red and green, but you see blue okay. So if you're looking at this and you don't see the number 5, I can tell you why, because the number 5 is in green and the surrounding field is in red. And if you're red-green blind, that's just going to look like a gray field. Enough on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what got me thinking along that line is one of the people that Shelby had do the test or test it for her was Tracy. And why don't you kind of you talked to her more and got more feedback from her. Why don't you kind of go through what?
Well, well, she's a consultant for, I mean, she's a contractor like me, I believe, and I'm not sure who all of her clients are, but she's a consultant for our friends over at Spot On Color, and they do color verification just like Colormetrics does, just in a different way. But we've been, talking with them quite a while now. I think, how long have you been, colleagues, friends with Bruce Bain from Spot On?
Oh, at least 10 years. At least 10
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
So we end up in a lot of the same trade shows, and we share. We have a lot in common, I guess.
Good.
But she has a strong color background, so she's a little bit younger than I am, not by a whole lot, but she is, and she was playing this game, I think, on her phone, so a really small screen and late at night. And you want to talk about addiction? I believe she was in the level of hundreds when she quit. If she's quit at this point, I don't know that she has. So.
Yeah, I don't see her. I don't see her joining us in the webinar, so we can't ask her. um, hey, if anyone
She called me this morning, but I couldn't take the call. So.
Oh, okay, all right. So anyone who's listening, if you've played the game, do me a favor and just shout out in the question box. Let me know you have, and just give us some one or two words or one sentence thoughts on it, and we'll kind of share those as we go throughout the.
And what level did you get to?
Yeah, and what level did you get to? That's a great question. So, I mean, hopefully this thing's broadcasting and everybody can hear us, because so far we haven't gotten any feedback. Oh, there we go. Someone, okay, actually, let's see what he says. Oh, wow, we got a bunch of people chiming in here. I guess you just have to ask. I can't get this opened up enough to see what they're saying. Though. There we go. Have played up to level 10. It's okay. Thanks, Bob. Where can I find the game? iTunes App Store. Yes, Will. If you just search for Blendoku, you will find it. And Bob is red green deficient. Can you explain the difference from colorblind? Well, Bob, the thing is with red green deficient, most people just think of that as colorblind, because that's the primary color blindness that most men who are colorblind have. And it basically means that you see both red and, I guess I don't know for sure because I don't see that way, but from what I understand, you see red and green kind of as a gray, so they mesh together and they look the same. The founder of Facebook is red green deficient, and that's the reason that Facebook's primary accent color is blue, because as you know, you see blue just fine. So he picked blue because that's a color that stood out to him, and it's actually pretty smart in hindsight, because otherwise about 8 or 9% of the male population would have more difficulty viewing his site. So when you have to pick an accent color, picking blue is not a bad idea in the design world. So. Oh wow! So Shelby, I don't know if you're seeing this, but Paul is past level 76.
Wow.
Bob, just because you could see the 5, there are 39 plates in that test, and so what it does is it determines your level of colored red-green deficiency. So what you might want to do, and again, I'm not an eye doctor, but you might want to run the link I'm going to provide. Lets you go through the entire test, and then actually gives you, it's not a grade, it gives you an evaluation that you might want to share with your eye doctor if you haven't already. Yeah, but not on all the plates. Exactly. That's why they have multiple plates, and some of them are there as, I guess they call them, negative tests, to see that you're seeing what you should be seeing and not seeing what you shouldn't be seeing, if you are red green deficient. So thanks for the input, guys. That helps. So Shelby, the other thing that Tracy got me thinking about was, what this is a test, and as a test this is a game, and as a game it makes a great tool for keeping your color perception and your color evaluation sharp. And I love her quote: "Great for color geeks and a good way to identify any range that are easier or harder for you to work with." Because I'm gonna hit on that with my own description in a minute. Fatigue makes it harder to see differences between colors and instinctively understand where swatches belong. If a printer operator doesn't like this game, he should not be visually evaluating color. I guess I agree with that to a certain extent, but I think there'd be better tools for whether or not they should be evaluating color for you. So I love her. Evaluating a printer's color through data is like being the world Blendoku champion with a perfect score in less than half the world average time every single time. And I guess I agree with that to a certain extent. But where I guess I have a different opinion is that X-Rite Pantone took over the Munsell companies, and there's a test that Munsell has out, the Farnsworth Munsell 100, which you can take online. And again, I'll include the link because it's the most god awful link in the world to put up in a PowerPoint. Um, and it basically, you take these rows of colors here, and there's more than three. You take these rows of colors and you organize them from light to dark, or it's not always light to dark, but from whatever's on the far left side to whatever's on the far right side, which makes it a little bit like Blendoku, but you can see there's a lot more choices and there's a lot of rows. And the people who really like to challenge themselves, this thing is available as you can take it for free online. But again, is your monitor calibrated? Is your lighting good? Uh, you can also purchase a $750 version of this test, which is made with physical tiles that you dump out and then you put back in the box. And the people who really like to challenge themselves, you're supposed to dump out one row at a time and organize them. I have some real color geek friends who dump out all the rows at one time and then try to get all the rows back together at one time. And I have some friends who can do that with a 100% score. That to me, and if you do that in a light booth in a fairly short amount of time, that makes, now you're the world champion of color, in my opinion. Because this is not, I'm pretty good with color, and I usually get not several, but many of these tiles out of place, because some of them are very, very close. And usually the ones I have trouble with, Shelby, are guess what color?
Yellow.
Oh, which leads into this slide. um, so I've highlighted, and anyone who read the article, I'm not gonna read through every single one of these points here because this is all in the article on the blog. But the key points here, and they kind of tie together with other things we've discussed, um, is that I am in my low 50s, and I want to, for the record, I'm 50 exactly. So if
Well,
Shelby
I
was,
didn't give anybody's exact age.
I'm just, since you made a big deal about my age, I'm going to. So, but that actually is an important factor because I remember when I was younger, and one of my first bosses, a gentleman named Dennis Redmond, said, "Just wait till you're my age," and he was about 50. And he said, "Just wait till you're my age, and seeing yellow gets harder and harder, and you're going to be out on press doing press OKs, and the art director is going to be someone half your age or female, because apparently females don't lose this yellow perception as much as men do with age. And this person is going to be seeing things in yellow that you're just going to be scratching your head and going, man, I really don't see that." And it's, there's nothing you can do about it. It's the age of your eyes, it's the fatigue of your eyes. So to a certain extent, you can't control it, but to the extent that you can, ideally, I should not have been. If I was trying to do this as a color test, I should not have been playing Blendoku on an airplane in the early morning with my window shade open and the sun glaring off of my iPad screen. Not
Yeah,
ideal.
by the way, didn't you leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning for this flight, and you have on there your condition is fresh and rested eyes? Really?
Well, I'm a morning person, Shell. I can't help that.
Okay.
I know 3 a.m. is the middle of the night for some people. For me, it's not an unusual time to get up. Well, okay, that's a little early. Um, yeah, I mean, but I still think it's, when I say fresh and rested, I'm going to use the example of, if I like to drive, and I don't mind driving in early morning dark, because my eyes are, I've slept and my eyes are fresh. I don't like driving in evening or nighttime dark because I've been up all day and my eyes are more tired. So it's fatigue from the point of view. When's the last time you slept with your eyes closed for an extended
Mm-hmm.
period of time?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
so I encountered
I
my
guess I
first
can accept that.
yeah, so I encountered my first problems on level 9, which I didn't even actually, until Shelby wrote it up, I didn't even realize that there is that yellow tile, and that you're blending yellow on level 9. And I was like, wow, okay, that now I understand why I had some trouble on level 9. But then I kept going, and like Shelby's experience, some levels I had no problems. I flew right through them. So, how about your experience, Shelby? What did you find?
Well, I did this. I was the one conducting the experiment, so I was I didn't do it all in one take, I guess. I did it over several days, and I still do it every once in a while, to be honest with you. But what I did try to do was control the environment, because to me, like you were saying, Jim, you were on an airplane, you had the window open, well, not the slide open, so the sun was glaring in, and I tried to do it with no artificial light, so I sat in my kitchen with big windows around me, so daylight between 11 a.m. and noon every time I played it. I didn't play it for an hour, but it was around that same time. So I was trying to make a situation where, for the most part, I wasn't doing it at night and then doing it in the morning, and having different results. And I had my first one that I could not figure out was at you know right away was level 27. And it was that middle tile there, the beige one, that really threw me. I didn't know where that needed to go, and I don't know why, but that was the one I was having trouble with. Do you have a theory on that, Jim? Because I couldn't figure out why I was having trouble with it.
Well, it's funny. I remember, I think level 27 is where I stopped. And
Okay.
I remember that beige tile being troublesome as well. And yeah, because even as you look at this, I mean, I guess of all the places, when it's all put together, of all the places it could go, that's the place. But
Mhm.
it sort of doesn't look right there to me. It really doesn't. I mean, even as we talk about it now, it doesn't look right there.
I kept wanting to put it in the corner
Yep,
where
that's where I wanted to put it too.
both color levels would meet. And maybe because it looked like such a blended color, like a gray,
Yep.
but it's not. And I don't know.
And again,
But
it
yeah,
just.
I've gotten past the level 37 now too. I don't know where I am, but
And I have sincerely not played the game since I tested it
since
for
I
you
made
on the.
you.
Well, I think I will. I think I will next time I travel. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
great. It's fun to pass the time and actually started a conversation with the guy sitting next to me. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, we don't have a slide, and we mentioned that Tracy was one of the people we asked to play, and she's got a color background. She's slightly younger than me and female. Well, I had my boyfriend play this, and I told him he only had to play the first 10 levels because, it's a favor to me. He has no color background, no professional color background. And he is younger than Jim, but, another male, but someone with no color background. I wanted to see how, I walked him through the first level to explain to him how it worked, first of all. But as soon as he got that, now he was using a regular iPad, not the mini like Jim and I have, but he was using that, and he was sitting, in front of our fireplace, which was the only light in the entire room at the time, and it was nighttime. And I asked him to play 10 levels, and he flew through them with no problem.
wow.
Now, I don't know how he would. Now, maybe he just has a natural, recognition of color. That happens. But he did not have, even your level number 9, no problem.
Right. Right.
So it was interesting just to see if he could do it. And then a few days later, I caught him still playing the game.
That is funny. That is very funny. So. All right. Well, that actually kind of brings us to the conclusion. Like I said, some of these things are going to be long, some are going to be short. But the question box is still open. So if anyone else has questions, and they don't have to necessarily be related to Blendoku because we've obviously talked about other things like proper lighting, human eye frailties, monitored calibration. Now we've covered those in other previous webinars, and probably the best way to get information on that is to go to colormetrics.com, which is the first link here, and look for the webinars tab in the upper right hand corner, and you'll see the archives, and I think that's where we're going to put these, although I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to Shelby. If you think of questions when we're all done, just shoot them off to help@colormetrics.com, and we'll make sure the appropriate person in the organization gets that question answered for you. And you can always reach out to, well, it's not really Shelby. You're reaching out to the company, but let's be honest, Shelby's monitoring it. You can always reach out to Shelby, and she will be more than happy to, forward that, either answer the question if she can, or make sure that somebody who can answer the question gets back to you. So, and we have a Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook and you want to be kept up to date on when these webinars are going to be, we will be posting. First of all, we'll post the article, a link to the article there when we publish it early each month, and then probably a couple more times throughout the month you might see reminders. So if you want to be reminded that way versus email or other ways that we communicate with you, that's a great place to connect with us as well. So with
And if you're
that,
on
oh,
LinkedIn, we have a group as well. The best is the link is very long, but if you Google Color Conversations LinkedIn, you'll find it right away on the first page. It's like the fifth or sixth item listed. It's all us anyway, but we already have about 70 some odd people in that group. But what's nice there is we are just talking and sharing articles about color. We'll be sharing, our monthly articles and the webinar registration page and all that. But it's a great place to go.
great, great. So unless someone wants to jump in the question box, and we'll give you a couple minutes, that concludes the formal portion of the webinar. Just, quick reminder that if you have ideas for topics, let us know. And even though Shelby said we have the next 6 months sketched out, if someone submits an idea that's better than one we've got in there, we're all about moving things around. I think, in future months when trade shows are coming up, we might have a color conversation, following a trade show like ISA or SGIA or Graph Expo that we attend, talking about what we saw at the show. Maybe we can take some pictures and do a little follow up of any new technology we found, if that's appropriate. That's another topic idea we've had, and we'd certainly like to have additional panelists on these webinars besides me and Shelby, because I think that over time that would get boring, and maybe it was boring today. But if you or someone in your organization or someone might make a good panelist for some of these topics, just feel free to let us know. And Shelby, any last words before I close it off? Because it looks like we've answered all the questions that have come up.
Yeah, no, not at the moment. I'm just checking Twitter here. I have been monitoring that, and I don't have any questions there either. So I guess until our next one next month.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a fantastic Friday.